speaking quite a bit about what we're to present here, about what we've done with the developer experience. He's leading that effort. Some of you may have run into some other amazing engineers, but Carl's fantastic in helping lead that effort, helping to bring American Airlines developers together, getting their voice, making their voices a reality in a platform that makes their lives and jobs easier. And we want to share that with the world for two reasons. As was shared earlier, is we want to make it other people's lives easier for them, and then also contribute back to an open source community, which we picked up and started using. And then if there's interest in learning more about what we're doing and connecting, those are the reasons we're sharing this. So with that, Carl, looking forward to your awesome stuff that you've got.
Awesome. Thanks for kicking it off. Let me bring my screen up here. So thanks for attending today. This is the second time we've been here at Canton Coders, and I'm here to show you about the products developer experience produces at American Airlines, mainly our Runway product. So to kick things off, Runway is based on Spotify's Backstage. We started off really early on, and we've been thrilled with the product. Let me pull up this other one. So last time we met with Canton Coders, we talked about the various challenges we faced. Since we met last time, we've reduced a lot of technical debt. For a long time, we were using a lot of legacy code base from our upstream provider Backstage. And we finally started to move off of it. We've gone through more learning journeys as well with our squads associated to the product. Runway as a whole started out as an experiment, and we grew from there. So we started off with a really small group of individuals, and then now we're up to, I think we started off with about 4, and now we're up to about 16 members on the squad, myself, product owner, and a couple others as well, working on the product. We've been working with our internal customers a lot to reduce the snowflakes that are out there. We've met with our application architects across AIT. We've figured out what they're, or trying to figure out what their needs are, making sure that we're hitting the mark as well to encourage the use of our developer platform. We're encouraging more teams, and we've seen more teams produce software templates to produce applications through our Runway platform. And due to the reduction in tech debt as well, and aligning better with Backstage upstream, we can encourage software template use through more powerful software templates with custom actions and custom field extensions. We've also contributed more to open source. We have worked with Rody specifically on their Argo CD plugin. We've contributed different bug fixes to the Backstage platform overall. And we have another big plugin coming along for Backstage, which is going to be our open source marketplace. I just connected with the team right before this meeting, and they are actively working on that open source contribution as well. So last time we were here as well, we discussed about the future of developer experience at American Airlines, and we've doubled down on our Kubernetes strategy. Before, when we presented, and I rewatched the video this morning to make sure I would be familiar with exactly what we presented, and we presented in June of last year. But since then, we were deploying to internal only endpoints and Kubernetes clusters. Now we have external endpoints available through our platform, both in non-production and production. Before it was just lab, and we bake in all the security from the start. And I'll kind of go over some of those software templates and blueprints and what we provide to customers out of the box, as well as the product demo as well. Let's see. We've implemented a lot of different abstraction layers as well at American inside the developer experience product. We've got Runway, which is going to be the main discussion here today for creating apps, onboarding apps, doing automated service requests as well. But our team's main focus is around create app. We've got our own custom Kubernetes operator to apply different services, annotations, labels, to expand from a small bit of YAML to all the native Kubernetes resources. We've seen a huge benefit here with the minimal YAML. Kubernetes can be really, really difficult and hard And we don't want to bog teams down with native Kubernetes objects. We want to instead provide them a simple YAML to describe their resources, and then we'll provide those same defaults and good security measures behind the scenes without teams having to worry about it. We use Argo CD for our deployments. We have a cluster service through Runway that can provide a lot of self-service around the projects and namespaces inside Rancher, and then our Rancher platform for user management abstraction. This will allow us to jump between clouds a lot more easily than we have been able to before. And then we've shared our stories with more companies as well and worked with the community to improve and implement code. So the particular item here with Rody, we spent quite a while on different iterations to make sure that we worked with the community, that we got something that worked for everyone, that we were able to incorporate our code base into something else that was already out there too. So we really worked hard with this one to make sure that we delivered what the community was asking for, something that helped us as well. And now we have, I know of at least 4 or 5 companies running this new code base with American Airlines' code, partnering with Rody as well. So this past year was all about getting more community contributors, getting our new members up to speed. Runway, as I mentioned, started out as an experiment. That means the skill sets needed to grow quickly as well. And as mentioned in the previous video with Canton coders, React and TypeScript were not super popular at American before Runway, but because Runway is based on Backstage, and that's the framework we decided to go with, we didn't have much of a choice as far as the technology goes there, but it's been popular. We've also been working on getting our Kubernetes infrastructure set up properly. We went from having absolutely nothing ready, at least for our automated solution, back in April of last year. And by November, we had all of our production clusters with all of the abstraction layers, with all the automation that we needed baked in. We've also been streamlining user workflows and growing to become bigger and better. So this is my lab environment right now of our Runway environment. This is Backstage. We've applied our own theme to it. Backstage has made it really easy as a enterprise developer experience framework to develop lots of different plugins, to continue with the Crate app and some of their core functionalities such as catalogs and docs as well. And it's made a really good starting point for all of our developers to get going. We've tried this exact thing as far as a developer portal multiple times at American. I've been involved in 3 of the different efforts, Runway being my 3rd effort now. One of them was completely homegrown internally, which was probably not the wisest choice to do. And then we shifted to a vendor provided product, which we were told low code, no code, but I'm sure most of us have heard that before and know kind of the reality of that, which is it never really comes true. And then we, during the pandemic, our coaching organization, they had a little bit more free time on their hands because they were used to working with a bunch of teams in person and hands-on, and they recognized this need. They recognized the need around everyone creating different applications, and that a lot of the time we were solving some of the same problems. So they started the original templating system, and then they started with implementing Backstage, and we've grown a community around the Runway platform once we rebranded it. So a lot of their vision was around the Create plugin, which is what Backstage offers. This is a new version that we're going to be releasing here Friday. That's in my lab right now. I've been playing around with it a lot. So not all of our templates are here right now, but most of our major ones are, plus ones that I'm testing with as well. We have another whole security category as well that we'll be releasing. But this makes it very easy using the Backstage framework, using some of the tools right out of the box to make applications, inserting our own workflows, inserting our own security methods as well. One thing that we've done here, if I just jump over to our actions as part of the new scaffolder. Our teams now, through the create application, can create their own actions to be worked directly into our software templates as well. So if in this case, we're creating resources in our continuous delivery platform, Argo CD, and we've got some inputs that can be inputted into the overall templates. So when our customers go through the create application process, Argo CD is just one of those steps inside that create process. Our teams have been looking at, because this is fairly new for us, this new scaffold process, our teams are looking at the different ways that they can incorporate all the different create processes from the platform. I don't think I mentioned it yet, but this is an inner source platform at American Airlines. So we do encourage all of our developers from all over American Airlines to contribute. We get pull requests from just about every single vertical, and we get new teams joining in every single week as well. So we do have a lot of things that are out there that could be incorporated into the create process, such as creating and measure Active Directory group, service principals, resource groups, things like that as well. So there's a lot more options that we can do with Create App. And because of Backstage, we're able to heavily customize what it looks like as well. So when I jump into one of our software templates here, and apparently I got logged out, so give me a moment. There we go. But when I click on one of our software templates here, we can insert our own fields very easily through the Backstage framework. So just as we were doing before, we can insert, if I insert a repo name that's already created, it'll pop up again, another custom field that we created for our Runway community to make it easier on our developers. And it looks like I've used that one already today. And then again, more custom fields. And then the end result, I did pull up a little cooking show magic to make sure I'm not boring everyone with waiting on processes to work, but this is what the end result looks like. I now have a repo that's available to me that I can go ahead and update. It only took a few seconds overall to generate everything that was needed to create the Argo resources, create a release of our GitHub code, register in the catalog, publish, and template everything. So it's a really fast process. Overall, we've reduced the time it takes to get out to public internet-facing endpoints from months for most teams down to minutes or hours if they want to perfect their app and everything and merge some code over. So it has dramatically increased the time that it takes to get out to the internet and that teams can play with their code in a safe non-prod environment. We do have, once I click on the catalog link, I kind of already opened it up again, but we've got the component here right now. I've got public facing endpoints with security baked in as needed. We introduce all of our applications into our service mesh as well. And we've got lots of information around the deployment of an application, recent workflow runs, and more information down there. We can jump into our Kubernetes tab, see more information about what our pods are doing, what our deployments, ingresses, services on down the line. You'll see that I do have, and I did this on purpose for this demonstration, but we've got a little bit of error reporting here that can help our users pinpoint what the issues could be. And then you can come down and see all the direct resources there as well and click in and find more details. So we've done a lot around the Runway platform to make it really easy to launch your applications out, to get high-level information about what's going on with your application, and then again, being able to jump right into the repo, update your code, and get that new version of your application pushed out into our non-prod or production environments. We also have, since last time we met, introduced some deployment options with promotion options as well. So teams can come in, click production clusters, and get active applications between our multiple regions, between multiple clusters as well. So as I mentioned previously, and I kind of skimmed over it a little bit, we do have multiple abstraction layers. One of them is our operator that takes simplified YAML and produces native Kubernetes resources. but it also provides updates to our global traffic managers as well. So anytime a new ingress comes up on any one of our clusters, our GTM managers are updated, and then all traffic can be distributed appropriately. One request we had previously was around not doing active for certain application types. So we kind of raced to go active right away. And then we've got some individuals that are kind of requesting to do the opposite. So now we've got a little bit of work to do around there. But this makes it really easy for our teams to deploy their applications in a really high resilient fashion. And this probably isn't the final UI. This is what we have for now. But I would imagine that we could, in the future, just select a cluster and say we want both regions or multiple regions. That's what we've got today. Going on, you can see I've got that exact endpoint up here in my browser right now. The default for this sample application is ChangeMe, but I've got the code pulled up here. I could go into the code repository. I can then update whatever code I want out in my application, and it will be redeployed and picked up by Argo CD. So another benefit here is our teams don't have to have credentials to do a continuous deployment pipeline. Our Argo CD application checks in on the repo every 3 minutes on a watched folder. And this watched file, in this case, and watches for any container tag increments or any changes to this file, and we'll reapply those objects through Kubernetes. As you can see, this is our simple, what we call our web app YAML. In this case, could be web service YAML or whatever, maybe bad naming at this point, but it's grown quite a bit. And we're able to enable our cloud ingress. This enables ingresses. This enables our service mesh connectivity. It enables our GTM services to propagate everything out to our providers as well. And it creates all those different objects in the background. I launched this just before this call, and I did pull it up in our Argo CD environment as well for continuous deployment. And you can see all the different objects that that simple web app YAML file produced. So pods, replica sets, deployments. If there's a config map, it would show that as well, but I didn't enter any environment variables for that. I'll cover just a couple more things here kind of quickly, and then I'll make sure I open it up for questions, and we can dig down a little bit deeper as we want as well. So one huge thing that has been super helpful for our community for adoption overall, as I mentioned, it's InnerSource, the platform, Runway itself. And that means that in order to get a whole lot of adoption, we had to write a whole bunch of documentation around contributing to Runway, creating the new blueprints, or now as we call them, software templates, creating plugins, doing specific authentication as well inside the Backstage Runway platform. So we provide lots of different resources, and then we have a whole nother site dedicated just to training and getting up to speed on Runway as well with tutorials. We've done multiple workshops where we walk our users through in 30 minutes how to create plugins and how to do some cool things with those plugins on the Runway platform. I'm trying to think, I don't want to show off that piece, but under access control, we do have something similar that our Orion Data Lake team made. This team has never had any sort of React or TypeScript experience, but they saw the need to self-service their requests and do it in an automated, secure, safe fashion. So they came to our team, they said, hey, this is what we want to do. We met with them 2 to 3 times a week, held their hand on overall development, showed them existing plugins they might be able to mimic or duplicate from. And then as they continued on and on, they went for an MVP approach, minimal viable product. They were able to release their Orion Data Lake access for non-PI at this time into a JSON format. They graduated and did more with APIs at that point. They went from being able to request access for just myself to other functional accounts and service principals. So all of our training I think, and all of our assistance has gone a really long way in making sure the Runway platform is successful. We've had many teams that contribute small pieces that then get incorporated into larger workflows as well, such as our Create app. So every little piece counts as something towards the greater end goal. We have, again, this is my lab here, but we've been working a lot on our catalog as well, making sure that when teams go into a catalog item, that they can, I don't know, it's my lab, so bear with me. Maybe something we need to look into before we release this next feature. But we wanted to make sure with the catalog that teams can come in here, easily see the information they're looking for, and jump into other systems as needed using links. This is the inner source marketplace that our team is looking to open source here soon. It was developed by our inner source team at American Airlines. And we list all of our different projects that are open source that people can contribute and also utilize as well within their own projects. So you'll see that Runway's up here. We've got our tech radar and a couple other things, items to make authentication easier in our company, things like that. So we really try to promote and push inner source through the inner source marketplace. We have some leaderboards, getting started documentation as well to make sure teams are familiar with inner source overall. Just clicking through some more of the plugins that our teams have developed, Active Directory groups, VM management, which I'm hoping will come into the Create app plugin here shortly. And one thing that we are also looking at open sourcing, we've been working with another company to open source our Apogee API provider portal for Apogee management. So we've got manage API, app approval, create, and all that happens right through Runway. I've used this myself, and it makes it really easy in just a few minutes to get a new API protected behind Apogee. And again, something I'm hoping to incorporate into the Create app process soon. More plugins for our enterprise managed file transfer service. And then we've just done tons of work around our Runway Kubernetes offerings as well, making sure that we've got all the automation in place from being able to apply doing a Terraform plan, a Terraform apply, all the way to having the full service mesh set up and clusters communicating. We've had teams in the past that because of security policies, because of other reasons, it can take months to get an environment like this set up. And through our automation, what we've done, ensuring that we do everything 100% automated and our team won't touch anything that's not automated, we've been able to reduce the time for an entire cluster environment to be stood up with 5 clusters, various node counts, all that in about 40 minutes. So everything we've done around the Create app has been about trying to push the envelope a little further and making sure that we can automate everything that there is. And we've even had to cross the lines into other verticals, other organizations to say, hey, here, let me help you get this automated. We can make a win for both of our customers. So that is Runway in a nutshell, with what American Airlines has been doing and kind of our focus around Create app and making teams successful in their journey getting out to the cloud. We have had quite a few teams that have now self-serviced and loaded onto our production clusters and have been running in production for a while. And all of our Runway infrastructure has been running on the same offerings that Runway has available through the UI for months now. So we also eat our own dog food as well, making sure that we're using our infrastructure, we're using our services, we're using the platform to its fullest capabilities. We ran into, through the MVP approach, we ran into shortcomings, and then we definitely work to address those later.
Hey, Carl.
Yep.
There was a question that we got in the chat. Wanted to pull out there for you, and I can fill those for you, and then you can answer those. But there was a question around the pull request tab. And it says they saw the pull request tab in one of the views. Are you doing reviews through Runway?
We are not doing reviews directly through Runway. This is Backstage in the Runway catalog. Makes it really easy to pull lots of different information sources together to provide kind of a high level information and summary of what's going on with this application, what's going on with the code base. We are planning to introduce more security tools and tabs to our catalog as well. But long story short, we don't do pull requests through Runway itself. We're using GitHub, of course, and our users would just go out to GitHub to address those pull request needs.
Perfect. I don't see any other questions. We can pause here for a minute, see if there's anybody online that want to raise their hand.
Yeah, I got a question. And Matt, let's end the broadcast so we can get protect everyone's agreements. I have one question I always ask. We like to take and create opportunities for developers to do things they might enjoy during the day. If this is interesting to me, how would I get a hold to potentially work on this software? Like, how would I maybe work at AA? How's that happen?
So working at AA, we have jobs.aa.com. We do have lots of positions out there. We have more positions around the Runway platform and developer experience as well. I'm not sure what's currently posted out there, but I know we have a couple opportunities that are coming as well. For one of our internal devs, if they're not associated with developer experience or the Runway product, our CIO has actually created an OKR after she's seen some of the success we've had to ensure more teams utilize Runway. And we've had teams that come to us and say, hey, we've got this new OKR, we need to contribute or use Runway. How do we do it? And we'll have teams that come back to us and say, well, it can't do X or it can't do Z. In a lot of cases, we work with those teams, figure out whether they fit the 80%. And if not, those teams are encouraged to contribute to the platform itself. As far as boundaries between organizations and verticals, everyone knows that this is kind of our CIO's one of the top priorities. So cutting out time to work on Runway, whether you're part of DX or not, is generally not at all an issue for any of our teams.
But yeah, if any of you see a job posting out there that you're interested in, as Carl mentioned, we are hiring, and we do have positions within the developer experience and in this organization that contributes back to this overall overall catalog of infrastructure as code and stuff like that back to the enterprise. So we have lots of positions there. If you see something that you're interested in, don't hesitate to ping me. I'm on the Canton Coders channel if you want to talk to me directly there, or look me up on LinkedIn at Ben Burbank. Be more than happy to chat with you, and we'll get you connected and start the conversations, at least, if nothing else.
And by the way, this is not a paid promo. This is just Ben and Carl are part of Canton Coders. If you want to work with them, well, reach out to them.
Right.
Just like if you want to work with Tim Wright, reach out to him. If you don't want to work with Bryce Levin, don't reach out to him.
Yeah, let me ask a question then to make sure that no one works with me. So this was really awesome, and so Carl and Ben, I really appreciate that. I guess that the thing that strikes to me, and this is at a very macro level, is it's so, at least in my experience, unlikely to see companies invest a lot of time in something like this because of the cost up front versus, we'll just keep doing the way we're doing, and then like the and you just mentioned that it's a CIO's top priority, and that's what's really driving it. So I was wondering was it the CIO's priority and that's why this has come, or did you guys have an insurgent kind of way of making it so that the CIO had it as their priority and then to continue it? Because I think that's where, these kinds of things get really challenged because of the return on investment or the hard to see that from the trees, if you will.
That's a really, really good question, and I appreciate you asking that. So I was hired in my current position as I run our dojo, basically. I was hired here 5 years ago, and at that particular time, our CIO was really interested in moving there was an agile transformation and moving in, including more DevOps and all of that. And so I was hired to start up the coaching organization, to start up our dojos and bring that. So we've had very good support from our technology department for a long time now. And the last when we got to about the time the pandemic hit, our coaching organization found themselves with a little bit more time. There was teams in American Airlines. They were like, "Hey, we're not ready for the dojo. We're, there was a lot of things that they were trying to do to keep things running. A lot of changes were happening, and so we found ourselves with a little bit more time. And as Carl mentioned, with a little bit more experience of having run dojos for a year and a half of what the pain points that the teams are running into. So that's when they jumped in and they said, "Hey, look, let's experiment with this." Didn't have to ask the CIO on this. We didn't have to. At that point in time, Ross had joined the company and had started. And actually, one of the things that attracted him to American Airlines was the CIO's involvement. So we've had some really good CIO involvement from that standpoint, and had given us the latitude of making the change. And so from that, we've had that support. So that's been a very big plus for us. I acknowledge and understand where other people are at, where you're trying to make that be actually bridge that gap and actually get them and be able to get them bought in. That's a huge mountain to climb, and you got to have a lot of partners, and you got to have a lot of just trying to work through the political nuances of the company and and it's hard. That's the hardest part of change, is trying to get the higher levels people to support it, and then to be able to give you the latitude to be able to make the changes that you need to, and the time. This doesn't happen overnight, like you said. As Carl said, that we spent, I want to say, about 6 months going through prototypes and trying to figure it out and everything like that, and then to where we are now. So it's, Carl, are we about a year and a half on this now, I think?
We started in May 1st of 2019.
Yeah, so we're about a year and a half, almost 2 years on it, and to where we get to what you see now. But that first year or so is just getting to something that's viable, that's working, that people can use. It's so it took a little bit of that initial investment, and we're glad that we had the support from the leaders we needed to do that.
So a year and a half.
And with the cloud journey too, that, I mean, we're shifting so many applications over to the cloud. A lot of our teams did things so differently. So by having a software template through a Create app and Runway, where we can inject a bunch of security best practices, ensure all of our websites are behind our CDN and gateway security providers on down the line, it was very attractive from a security standpoint, and from teams. There were lots of teams looking to create all these different developer portals. I know I came from a team that created their own developer portal. We had other teams looking to hire from the outside to create developer portals as well. So I think there were multiple things that helped support this, where it really made the CIOs say, we need to put more and more effort and time into this platform.
I have a
question. As far as, sorry, go on.
No, I had a funny question, but we'll wait. Sorry, I didn't even cut you off, Carl.
I was just going to say, looking at Spotify's adopters page, there's lots of big organizations, I'm sure smaller organizations out there as well, that have adopted this platform. So I think that it's definitely a lot different from home growing or building your own solution, when you have the community kind of standing behind you, having the Backstage developers right on Discord available for you. And they have a lot of things out of the box that organizations can utilize without having to write a bunch of custom code, but it will be required at some level. But to have a big cohesive platform like this that works for all your different tools, we've tried different commercial offerings and it just didn't cut it. So we found this is the way to go.
Real quick on the adoption for like the inner sourcing. How's the adoption been from the engineering teams? Have you seen any struggles, or did you have to do internal marketing at all? And at what capacity?
We've done lots of internal marketing. We have a Friday series, I think it's every Friday, called Interact Studio, where we bring in lots of teams from around AIT and talk about the different cool things we're doing, show off some demos, things like that. So we've done lots of demos at Interact Studio. We have our own weekly demo series to keep our customers involved. And we're not always focused on showing finished products. We're always focused on showing whatever we have available to get feedback early on and to make adjustments for our customer needs as well. We have discovery sessions weekly with all of our customers as well to figure out what we are doing right, what we might not be doing right, what we can improve on, what different items that we're covering and not covering for them. So as far as a community aspect and as far as advertising, there's been a lot around it. And then there's been a lot of community members as well who have seen what we've built. We've made their lives so much easier. And now they're kind of our own advertising board as well to the other individuals and other organizations.
And Jesse, to your question there, that we're working with, so our product coaches are also working with the team there to say, hey, one of our CIO's goals is to increase the adoption here. And so we're working with them to, hey, what can we do more around the marketing from that standpoint to help in making it to where the adoption keeps continuing to grow. But there's a lot of good base stuff to build off of, good technology. I think that some of the areas that we're working on is just more of that marketing and that conversations and awareness. And then part of it too is teams being aware of, it exists, and so the awareness is getting there. But then two, how do I apply it and use it in my thing when I've got this mainframe or I've got this piece of code that's spaghetti code, and how does this really cool thing work and help me in this? So
Right.
helping with some of those more complex problems is really gonna turn up the dial at American Airlines. But from new and greenfield stuff, this is a lot of cool things, adoption there. But the real nut to crack this year is getting this to work with the legacy code base that's out there and helping them improve that.
Sure.
And we do have options to help some of those customers, like through Create App. We do have deploy an existing app if it's already Dockerized. So we've got some functionality around that, but there's definitely lots of room for improvement.
Hey, Carl, we had a couple of questions in the chat. First question was what are some of the challenges that we ran into when we were standing this up in the initial journey? I think we talked a little bit about a journey, but some of the challenges standing it up. And then another question was Runway. Where did we get the name Runway from?
Okay. So challenges, kind of covered that a little bit at the beginning, but we were early adopters of the Backstage platform. We started on Alpha 4 of 0.1.1. So that was only a month and a half after they released their public version. We had lots of issues around skill sets because React and TypeScript just weren't popular. We had a huge transformation from a project to a product mindset, as well as shuffling of resources too. We really wanted to be transformative in the way that we deliver. So we took a bunch of infrastructure engineers and overnight said, hey, you guys are software developers now. But we provided the right training and skill sets to work with them to make sure that they're able to make that transformation as well. Snowflakes, we have specifically on the software template piece. Everyone likes to do things differently. A lot of our application architects all seem to have different designs. I don't know if they don't talk to one another, what the case is, or everyone thinks that they have the best idea or wants to try something new. Which is great for experimentation, but very difficult when you're trying to run an enterprise with thousands of applications. So through the software blueprints, software templates, we've been able to work with different teams and solidify and standardize what needs to be in those various blueprints. And then open source at American has never been really a strong point up until I would say maybe the pandemic. We did different contributions to different open source projects, but really embracing open source and using it at the core of what we do day in, day out was never really a strong suit. So challenges, we face lots of challenges between people saying, hey, you're not supporting exactly what we want. Like we had a large debate for a while for app services versus launching on Kubernetes. And then we really dug into what the problem was. And it wasn't that teams really wanted app services, it's that they wanted the ease of use of app services and being able to point, click, get things running right away with different items integrated. So that's one thing that we found through Runway, was that they didn't really care where their application was. We just needed to provide the right integration right out of the box. So that helped quite a bit.
And to Carl's point on the transformation on the project to product mindset, beginning of last year, where all of the infrastructure, most of the infrastructure teams within American Airlines got consolidated under one leader, which is Ross Clanton. My team as coaches worked with them to organize themselves around products instead of projects or technology based. And then we spent all of last year running through multiple sessions of dojos, of skilling them up and trying to help them get up to speed. Now, there's more that's happening there. We've gotten them to the point to where they understand what it means from an engineer mindset. They're able to do contributes back to the code and work through that, and they're continuing on that journey. But it's something like that doesn't happen in a year's time frame. It's a 3 to 5 year change that's going to continue. And Carl's one of the key people of helping that from that standpoint. And through that process, we've lost people because it's like, hey, yep, I just want to do X, Y, and Z technology, and I don't know what you're talking about on all this modern engineering stuff. And so we've lost people, and we're looking to continue to grow, backfill with people that have that modern engineering mindset and infrastructure as code and contributing to this awesome stuff that we're doing.
There's a couple more questions, Ben. I don't know how long you guys want to go. Lunch?
Yes.
I know what lunch is at American Airlines. Is that an hour? 2?
We get lunch?
Yeah, right.
Carl, you said it was first lunch, second lunch, and this would be during your third lunch.
I like it. Aiden, you asked a question about fully remote work. Traditionally, American Airlines has been an in-person company. We are seeing that shift a little bit more. So we're open for conversation on that. If it's something that interests you, feel free to reach out. We'd be more than happy to have a conversation, and right people, right place. I'm seeing some of that change.
The easiest way to get a hold of you is probably Canton Coder Slack.
Yeah, you can ping me right there directly. Mm-hmm. That'll work. Let's see. Can you talk more about, so Steve had a question. Can you talk more about people, how you help people learn new skill sets? Oh, that's a great question. I'll take a stab, and Carol, you can jump in too, because I know that you're helping from a Runway standpoint.
And also we can do a shameless plug. Ben's going to actually be leading a conversation about dojos, I think in March, on this channel, same time, same place, right? So,
yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, it's going to be a panel, but actually we leverage the dojo coaching model. Now, I'm going to take a pause here, and it was untraditional. Okay, so we started out, originally we do 6 weeks engagements. We had 12 teams we had to get through. We couldn't spend 6 weeks with a team just to get them up and running. So the first things that we did is working with some engineers and some architects. What we did is buckle your seatbelts. We did 2-day flash builds, and we did them with 12 teams. And the reasons and the purpose of that was to get everybody exposed to what it was we were asking them to do and how they were to act, so they were aware, to bring the awareness. The intent was not to increase, at that particular time, was not to increase their abilities. It was just to bring the awareness, so they were actually aware. And so we started doing those. And then after we got everybody aware, then we started rolling through more of your traditional engagements, where we were doing 6-week engagements with each of the teams. And so there was about 12 squads to where we were helping to upskill, and we had coaches sitting alongside them, technical coaches sitting alongside them on helping to guide them on their coaching. And then the team did a really good job in hiring some really good leaders that were able to help continue to grow the squad, the individual squad members. So, and Carl, what else you add on that?
I know we brought in one training provider as well, who worked with our squads very extensively, at least the squads associated with Runway. So they were able to pick up fundamentals they might have missed or ask one-on-one questions. I think they did pair programming as well, which we do heavily in DX to begin with, but pair programming with other external experts helped out a lot. We've we do a lot of mob programming. Every Friday we have mob programming in our group, to make sure that everyone's getting experience on different items as well. And that mob programming doesn't necessarily have to be the Runway platform. It's just mob programming to move us forward, to innovate, to automate. And we're not always looking for something to come out of those either. I mean, as long as the team's learning and growing and finding out about new technologies, new techniques, things like that. And then myself personally, I've been involved with a lot of teams around American that have never programmed before. And then we walk through multiple times a week, little baby steps of how to get your feet wet, how to create a plugin very easily using our tutorial system, how to implement a simple form element through Material UI, and then just continue and progress from there. So for some teams, it takes much longer and it can struggle, but we have seen lots of great results even from people who've never developed before.
So that was good. Thank you. I guess and I'm familiar with the Dojo model. I guess my question was more around when you said we met with like the teams to upskill them on React. Like, and were you just mob programming, pair programming with them, tutorials? Like, what worked and what didn't work when you were working with them?
I think it really was a mixture of all of it. I think everyone kind of learned at different paces. Some individuals, I think the tough reality is some individuals couldn't keep up or didn't have that coding programmer mindset. And as Ben said, some individuals decided to leave, but we did also realize too that we put a lot of these engineers into this position that they weren't familiar with, that they didn't choose as their career path either. So we did work with those individuals and say, hey, is there a different area within the company, within our org that you'd feel more comfortable in? And some individuals took us up on that as well. So really, I don't think that there's anything I could pinpoint that didn't work or that worked spectacularly. I think it was a combination of all of it. So everyone's learning different things and learning together.
The biggest thing, Steve, that we, from a leadership standpoint, that we wanted to do is we wanted to signal long-term our direction and then give them the awareness of what that looked like. So they were educated on, hey, yeah, I want to step into this, or no, I think I want to do something else. And then with that, they were able to have conversations with their leaders about what made sense for them. But the challenge is when you push a change on this to somebody and don't give them a voice in their next step or where they want to, and it's not something they really want. So as a leader, you've got to manage that situation to where you're saying, hey, look, you're a person and I'm going to help you with this, but it doesn't mean you're going to be successful in this. I'm going to find or help you, connect you with what is successful. And that's when you're dealing with people, that's the key there, is trying to make sure that you're connecting them with their passions and then helping them, give them the scenarios to be the successful long-term. And then then what happens is when you're able to connect that, then the right things start happening and people start falling into place and stuff like that. You have the right conversations and they either self-opt out or you're able to connect them into other areas where they're more passionate. They can keep them in the company. So that's the key, I think, in when you're leading a change like this, is that you've got to be able to first and foremost remember it's people, and then understand how you connect those people with their passions, but also signal that where you're going long-term. So that way they're aware and they can make educated decisions on their career.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, if you can figure out their passions, then you can figure out whether they're aligned and how you can help them. Did you also create like communities of practice around, like if you had a bunch of people learning React, so that it, like the learning community grew beyond like the dojo?
Actually, that you mentioned that my team is meeting with, just this week, we're meeting with another group within American Airlines that is doing workshops around not just React, but it's like solid engineering and modern engineering programs. Pick your platform, but do that. And we're meeting with them to see what they're doing and seeing if there's something that we can leverage within our dojo. So that way we've got, we're amplifying it across the company. So yeah, there's some other things like that starting to pop up.
Thank you. That was great.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
By the way, Steve Thomas is speaking, I think, next month too. It's not
awesome.
Tommen. He typed in D. I was like, who is that guy?
And the topic is, how do you create an environment of learning and improvement? So that's why I asked the questions.
Another shameless plug, right?
Yeah.
Well, I definitely will have to come in and listen to that one.
And pester him with questions, right, Ben?
I will.
You got like a
month. Please do. Beforehand would be great, so I can take time and figure out the answers. That's fine.
Yeah, I think the biggest, internally, I think the biggest thing I hear is, I don't have time.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest anti-pattern I hear to the environment of learning is, I don't have time. And
another shameless plug, if this is interesting, join our Dojo Slack channel where this is endlessly debated.
There was, Carl, there was a question posted out there about testing process that we use.
So Backstage has some testing built in. They have unit testing through Jest and maybe some other tools. There is Cypress, part of Backstage too, that you can run through for user testing, and actually it'll run, I think, kind of like a headless browser or something, and take video and screenshots and stuff. Beyond that, we haven't touched integration testing yet, which we'd like to do. But we heavily use unit testing, and we make sure too, when contributions are coming in, that they have proper unit testing. And if those teams don't know how to unit test or need help with unit testing, we're there to work with them. So I think that's one of the big benefits of our group that I've seen from a community standpoint, is we're always there willing to help. And there's nothing that we really say no to.
Well, Ben, Carl.
Yes, thank you.
How long is the lunch hour?
I do have another meeting starting here. So as Carl mentioned, it's this one's about a diversity, equity, and inclusion group. So I get to be part of that. That's fun.
Excellent. And I want to thank Carl and Ben, and especially American Airlines. If you think your team's doing something like this and they're willing to come talk at Can't Coders, no one. Ben, did we pay you to come talk?
Nope.
And did you pay us to come talk? No. Katie's saying yes, but that is not true. In fact, we don't know what to do with money here. We just want to create opportunities for people to learn from each other, and focus on all humans learning to tolerate or love code. Right?
This works hard.
Yeah.
The more we can share together and help each other out, the better off we all are.
Happier coders, happier families, happier lives. Right?
Yep.
And it's okay to write COBOL too.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Norm.
Wonderful. Thank you. And join our Slack, join our Discord, and yeah. So
thank you, everyone.